A substitute teacher in Columbus, Ohio faces serious charges. Police say she tried to pay one of her students to shoot and kill her husband.
This particular teacher was attempting to groom this young person into committing murder.
Columbus, Ohio, usually known for its polite Midwestern charm, Buckeye pride, and a craft beer scene that could give Portland a run for its money. But this week is serving something entirely different: a substitute teacher, a student, and a murder for hire plot. Now, this isn't your run-of-the-mill unhinged person does unhinged thing, right? No, this is darker, calculated, the kind of thing that looks an awful lot like grooming a teenager to become a weapon. Meet Stephanie Demetrius, 38 years old, currently licensed as a substitute teacher in Ohio, certified to teach everything from finger painting in pre-K to high school algebra. But apparently she was looking to branch out into contract killing, allegedly. This all went down at the Academy for Urban Scholars High School in Columbus, which sounds like a place where teachers should be inspiring kids to, graduate, not whispering murder plots between bells. But according to court docs, Stephanie Demetrius approached a student, yes, a literal high schooler, on March 26th at the Academy for Urban Scholars and asked if they'd be interested in, shooting her estranged husband for $2,000 and $250 cash up front. Okay, let's just stop right here for a second. First of all, $2,000. You're trying to get someone to commit first degree murder for what basically amounts to a used Honda's alternator bill. I mean, look, that's barely enough to even cover prom season. And you want this kid to throw their entire life away for mere chump change? You gotta be kidding me, okay? You gotta be kidding me. Listen, Stephanie is the definition of nasty work, okay? This is nasty work. She didn't drunkenly post on Facebook, "Hey, somebody take my husband out," right? She didn't make a vague joke in the staff lounge. No. She allegedly walked up to a teenager in a school hallway or maybe in a classroom where she was literally teaching and asked if they'd be willing to commit this type of a crime. Again, she didn't go to a sketchy acquaintance. She didn't look for a hitman on the dark web. She chose someone young, impressionable, likely still figuring out boundaries and authority, and tried to turn them into a killer. Why? Because a kid would be more pliable, easier to control, less likely to say no, especially to a teacher who's an authority figure. And let's talk about that payment again. $2,000 total with $250 up front. She wasn't just offering a bribe. She was setting a psychological trap. That first $250 is not just cash, it's a hook. Once the student takes it, now they're in, right? It creates a sense of complicity, a mental contract. That's how grooming works. Make the target feel like they're already a part of something they can't back out of. Stephanie wasn't planning to off her husband. She was engineering this plot. Now, there's reportedly a recording where she tells the student the rest of the money is coming. So think about that. She knew this would take time. She needed to mold her victim. She was spacing out the payments like it was a freelance gig, like the kid was a contractor, not a human being. That cold detachment is deeply unsettling, especially for someone who is licensed to mold our children. And just like at home, respecting authority is reinforced. You have to respect your teachers, right? But wait, there's more. Stephanie even mapped out logistics, told the student when her kids would be out of the house, that the husband worked from home, and when the student asked about the sound of gunshots in the neighbors, she said, and I quote, "They don't care." No, it's more like you don't care, ma'am, because you're trying to get a teenager to do this crime. That's chilling. That's not just apathy. It's the mindset of someone who thinks that the world around them is too checked out or desensitized to intervene. She wasn't worried about consequences, especially not on this child's behalf. She was counting on silence. So, if you're thinking, why not just get a divorce? Well, technically, she tried. Sort of. Stephanie's divorce history reads like a soap opera script on steroids, okay? She filed for divorce in 2017 and then again in 2024. And in between, allegedly committed every crime short of stealing the Statue of Liberty, okay? Her estranged husband, Carlton Demetrius, filed for emergency custody of the kids back in July of 2024. According to his court filing, things were already way off the rails before the hit job plan hit the inbox. Here's just a sample of what he accuses her of: violating a stay away order, breaking into his home and stealing a laptop and cash, poking him with scissors like she's an understudy in a horror play, setting fire to the basement, taking furnace parts out during freezing temps, destroying garage doors, stealing the Wi Fi router, and assaulting not just him, but two of their children. Honestly, this isn't even a custody dispute at this point. It's a full on Lifetime movie wrapped in legal filings. This is pathetic. And if true, this paints a portrait of someone engaged in prolonged psychological warfare. Not just rage, not just lashing out, these are controlled acts of sabotage. They show a person testing boundaries, then escalating when no one stops them, right? This is not just about trying to hurt her husband, it's about domination. It's a campaign of intimidation. And look, when that shit didn't work, she allegedly decided offing this man was her only option left. Okay. Now, let's zoom back in on her choosing a student. So, what's the power dynamic here? Well, this was someone who likely called roll, graded papers, maybe even handed out detention. Now she's allegedly offering a child a literal kill order. That's not just criminal, it's deeply psychotic in its distortion of control. She's using the authority of her role, a teacher, to project safety and trust, and then subverts it and completely uses that role to serve her own violent fantasy. It's exploitation disguised as mentorship. This student could have been, I don't know, 15 or 16, still trying to figure out how to parallel park and fill out college applications. And now she's trying to make them a pawn in a very adult, very lethal game. Gross. Okay. The truth is, this plan didn't unravel because of top tier detective work. No, it unraveled because the student's mom found the messages and said, absolutely not. And big shout out to that parent for having actual eyes and keeping close tabs on their child, because who knows how far this would have gotten if this wasn't found out, right? Now, police confirmed the student was being groomed for the job, which I mean, again, yikes. We're talking about a person in a position of power leveraging it to manipulate a young mind. That's next level predatory behavior, okay? And of course, her public defender called the allegations of fabrication, which, sure, defense attorneys are professionally obligated to try to convince us that maybe we're all just misinterpreting the context of a $2,000 hit for hire. But given the details, receipts, recordings, and a student with actual messages in their phone, it's going to be a hard play for, the oops, I was just kidding card, okay? Now, Stephanie Demetrius was arrested on April 1st, which feels both ironic and wildly on brand for this story, okay? And she's currently facing felony conspiracy to commit murder, which, if convicted, could land her in prison for life. Her preliminary hearing is set for April 11th. And while I'm not jumping to conclusions, let's just say, if even half of these allegations stick, she's not exactly heading back to the classroom anytime soon. And thank goodness, because we don't need that kind of influence in the classroom around impressionable young minds, okay? And here's the thing: Ohio doesn't play when it comes to conspiracy to commit murder. It's a first degree felony. And if the prosecution can prove intent and planning, especially involving a minor, it's basically a legal slam dunk with a side of, girl, what the fuck were you thinking? Okay. Look, this story is tragic, twisted, and honestly downright disgusting. At its core is a horrifying abuse of trust and power from a teacher towards a student, from a human being towards basic human decency. And yet, it's not a standalone case. It's a part of a larger, disturbing pattern of adults dragging minors into their personal chaos. This is also a family in crisis. Stephanie has children, right? She has children, and she was going to off their father in this horrific way. This is also the story of a student who was targeted by a trusted authoritative figure. Listen, this is just, terrible all the way around, right? So, what do we take from this? That a teacher allegedly tried to turn a student into a hitman for $2,000 is insane. Yeah. But what's more unsettling is how unsurprising it feels once you read everything that came before it. Court filings, violations, alleged violence. All of that was stacked up like red flags waving in slow motion, right? And somehow, this woman was still in a classroom, still around kids, still holding the kind of influence that clearly should have been in her hands. The thing is, it's easy to gasp at a headline, right? It's harder to admit that this isn't a glitch, it's a pattern. One that shows up over and over when people abuse systems that weren't built to anticipate them or hold them accountable when they do. And what stopped this from going any further wasn't policy or progress. It was a parent who paid attention, right? And we should be asking why it took that to keep someone alive. Because until we deal with that part of the story, this kind of thing, it's not an anomaly. It's a preview. Anywho, drop down in the comments and let me know what you think. Again, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, bet you know now.